Ten after 6, we had a brief executive session. It's Monday, August 19th. We are going to be discussing Main Street and the Ring Road intersection, and we're going to invite people in.
Do you have margaritas? You look very summer.
I only drink wine.
Okay, no worries. Okay, well, everything is tentative anyway. Everything's tentative anyway.
He made his own decision.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
He's strong, but he's better now.
All right, is that everybody?
Okay, sure.
Coming in?
Yeah, they come.
Okay.
Okay,
Hello.
sounds good.
Can you remind everyone to speak up so the old people...
Why don't we turn off the air, too?
Why don't we?
What if we just put the, should we put them in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Folks, why don't y'all come on in and sit down?
Hey, good to see you. How do you do?
Got it?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we're here to talk about the Main Street and Ring Road intersection. And if everybody could speak up and announce your name, please, when you've got a question, that would be wonderful. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background, we have applied for a MassWorks grant to look at that intersection because you folks didn't like it, we didn't like it, we didn't like the way that, we didn't think it really addressed the needs. So we've applied for a grant that would include the engineering for the intersection as well as the work itself. So everything is really tentative right now, but we wanted to open up to you so that you could share your concerns about the intersection. What we have thrown out is my interest was possibly looking at a small roundabout or a three-way stop for the intersection. My concern is people are driving too fast on that road, and paving it is just going to make it like a freeway. So trying to find something that helps people negotiate that area, but also slows them down. So that's, I think, we're all interested in traffic, controlling the speed of the traffic, as well as making the intersection safer. So that's what we're looking at options to do that. So that's kind of where we are now. Do you guys have anything to add, Mark or John?
I think looking for feedback.
Okay. So unfortunately, we don't have the drawings for you tonight, but we had seen a drawing that was similar to the first drawing, but there were some pretty significant changes. I think that the curve was maybe softened in that first.
The curve and some different markings on the ground, like ground markings.
Okay, but it was pretty similar to the one that you had all seen that was basically kind of a curved T. And then we did see one with the small roundabout too, the conceptual drawing.
That was talked about.
That was talked about,
but
okay.
Just in draft concept.
Okay, all right. So nothing firm, but go ahead, Mark.
The only thing I'd say is I know there's maybe been a little bit of misunderstanding of where we are in this process, and it's just a shame for people to get upset based on misunderstandings. And whether we even get this grant to begin with, but to be just explicitly clear, the grant would include, as the first step, money for engineer and designing options. And we, at this point, absolutely, we, the selectmen, have made no decisions whatsoever about what would be best, and in fact are just looking for opinions and looking for ideas on it. certainly part of the process would include a lot of input, and especially input from abutters and neighbors and people on that road. The only other thing I'll just mention at the beginning is when we knew there was concern about this road and other roads, we did look into the possibility of lowering speed limits in town, and I was actually all gung-ho to see if we could make the speed limits in town 30 everywhere, and then strictly enforce it and get the word out there that Plympton is unique and different, and that we slow down in this town, and even I could slow down when I drive through town. Unfortunately, we hit a lot of roadblocks on doing that. And not to go on too long here because I know others want to speak, but actually it was last November, the Board of Selectmen gave me permission to talk to Town Council, and we looked in what we could do about lowering speed limits. Unfortunately, the state has a lot of very specific requirements on lowering speed limits, and we simply are not able to do it without approval of Mass Department of Transportation, unless we're dealing with some specifics. Towns can lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour on any road when it's thickly settled, but there's very strict regulations on what thickly settled is, and it is on average houses being less than 200 feet apart. And unfortunately, we don't qualify for that. If we did, it would have been easy. A vote of town meeting vote would have taken care of it, and I think we all would have been very, very much in favor of that. The only other way to do it without getting Mass Department of Transportation involved is to designate a safety area, but those are defined as land that's directly adjacent to parks and playgrounds and hospitals. In that case, were that the case, we could have, based on town meeting, lowered the speed limit to 20 miles an hour. So that's a long-winded way of saying is, albeit that's a beautiful idea and actually a really inexpensive idea, it doesn't look like those possibilities are available to us.
Anything, John?
No, I'd like to hear.
Sure. Any questions, concerns? All right, Jen?
Jen McDonald, 58 Main Street. I was just curious, designated as a scenic road, scenic roads. I thought there was another designation for scenic roads that reduces the speed limit.
When I went over it with town council, he didn't think that fit. And actually, one thing that I hope comes out of this tonight is I would like to go back to town council for a very brief discussion on whether he thinks you know how it is with the law, there tends to be, this is the law, and then there's one exception, another exception. I don't think we're going to be able to do it, but by the end of this discussion tonight, I'm going to ask my fellow selectmen if they'd allow an hour or so to go back to town council and just make sure. If there's any way at all, I think that's a beautiful solution, not only for that road, but all the others.
Right.
And we could call all of Plympton scenic in one way or
Right,
another.
exactly. It all is.
You can't put a sign up, say dangerous corners, reduce speed limit to 25 or 20 miles an hour because it's a dangerous corner.
I mean, I think signage and, paint on the road may be one way to try to deal with it. The lowering the speed limit doesn't seem to be the case unless we find some other loophole that we haven't found already.
Okay. Well, John, you had your hand up.
Just going to comment on the scenic road designation.
Okay.
John Wilson, I'm also the chair of the Historical Commission out at Main Street. My understanding is that is a designation that sits under more on the historical side of the regs and allows for towns to, through town meeting, put in some controls in scenic roads, such as with trees and stone walls and so on and so forth. I do not believe it has any intersection with Mass DOT. I never heard of anything like that. It's worth just validating that with town council, but that would be a first.
Okay. All right. Sir, you had your hand up.
I live on Main Street. I actually am glad to hear you say about the 3 stop signs, because that was brought up at the last meeting. Kind of a Yankee, don't spend the money if you don't have to spend it. 3 stop signs, people are going to stop. And it takes care of all the problems right there, because somehow, some way, we're going to end up paying more taxes somehow There's gonna be overages, it's gonna be a mess down there for as long as the state takes to do whatever they're gonna do. To me, it just, 3 signs, you're done. Everybody has to stop. I've cleared that whole corner down on that, I'm in the new house right on Main Street, right across from Ring Road. You stop at Ring Road now to take a left, you can see all the way down that road now. And that's just me with a chainsaw. That's not the town coming in and doing some brush cut and cutting some smaller trees. You can open that up really nice, put the 3 stop signs in, and nobody has to pay any extra money to do anything. And the town stays the same, the stone wall stays the same. I just think it's a great, so when you said that, I thought it was I'm glad that somebody up there was thinking that, because I think it's a solution.
All right, thank you, sir.
I think there's going to be a lot of ideas, but initially, before anybody opened their mouth, I think there were some assumptions coming from some of you that I feel like things have been decided in advance in a certain way. I mean, there are proposals. The meeting a couple of years ago was, what I remember is it wasn't people objecting to the intersection, they were objecting to the project and the expense of this proposal to straighten out the road. That was the purpose of the meeting, and there were a lot of objections. Now, the objections were very varied, okay? But what you said at the very beginning, that paving the road would just, repaving will exacerbate the problem because people will drive faster. That kind of assumption, if we start with that, we can't go anywhere. The biggest problem with that road is that it's a mess. It's a lot of heavy trucks have caused the depression on the side of the road, which is a big scoop, and there are ruts. Now, a lot of us do some bicycling there, and it's dangerous when you go around the road. We usually go up through the school zone because we don't want to make that turn. That turn is not dangerous. I do it all the time. The visibility is reasonably good. But the pavement is a wreck. Now, the state did solve some of our problems by putting up some stop signs. The intersection was a real wreck in terms of stop signs and limit lines. So people turning right coming out of Ring would run the stop because it literally wasn't a legally marked stop. That stop sign wasn't there. Now we've got stop signs. It seems to me the problem has been partially solved. Now, the other thing, though, there is a yield problem. There are yield markers there. There's a very short period of which you have to stop to yield to traffic that's going to go left onto Main Street. And that's a lot of people that are going left.
Right.
You pull off of Main, and then you've got to yield if there's a car coming. But I think a question that was not answered, have there been any accidents in that intersection?
There's actually been quite a few close calls.
And yeah, close calls don't count. I've had close calls outside my own. I almost been run over outside my house on Main.
We had an accident there a couple of months ago, I think, where a car ran into the guardrail. I know when Chief Dillon was here.
That guardrail's after.
That's not in the intersection.
Well, it's just past it.
Yeah,
one of
it's
the things
not in
is,
the intersection.
but the question is the speed.
Yeah.
And one of the things I remember Chief Dillon saying, he considered that the most dangerous intersection in town.
But I think we have to be objective and careful when the guardrail is not in the intersection. What was that car doing? Probably driving too fast. Was the turn that abrupt? It's not any more than the curve outside of our house. Now, we live off of, down on the other side of Maple, that turn is less of a turn than the Ring Road. So, is it speed? We just have to be careful that we shouldn't make assumptions like paving the road's going to cause more trouble. The ruts and all of that, it's a danger to pedestrians. We have a school zone that's really close. I would propose, is there some way to extend the 25-mile-an-hour school zone just to include, so the buses can come in and out of Ring? School buses.
I've been living at this.
What's your name, sir?
Bob Andrews.
Okay.
I live at Main Street. I'm at Main Street. That field at the Ring Road is my property. Over my lifetime, I've probably seen about 8 accidents at that corner, but over the last couple of years, I've seen 3 on the straightaway. One hit the guardrail, one hit one of my trucks, and one hit the telephone pole down by one of my mailboxes, and that's a straightaway. So it's not so much the corner, it's, the ignorance of people driving, texting, taking knives off the road, speed, whatever it is. It's not the fault of the corner, it's the fault of the drivers. If it would help, the trees that I have on that property, they could be cut down. If someone did go off the road there, maybe that telephone pole should be moved to make it safety. Put up those arrows that say dangerous corner.
That's one of the things we're looking in is if we could move that telephone at a reasonable price, then we could straighten things out without doing a lot of work.
All you have to do is wait for someone to hit the pole again, then.
We need a volunteer.
Elizabeth?
Good. Now we're talking.
for coming in late, so, but is there a proposal in front of us that we're talking about?
No, it's a grant application. We've applied for a MassWorks grant, which will cover the design for the intersection and the construction. And we may not get the grant, but there's been quite a bit of interest in this intersection, and we wanted to get some public input. We all have our own ideas about the intersection and what we hope to accomplish, and we wanted to hear from you guys, too, the residents that live in the area and just the residents in Plympton, what your concerns are for that intersection or things that you think we should look at.
I just second Bob's, since we live at Ring Road, he's right. The 3 accidents I witnessed have also been on straightaway towards his house, and we've been there 20 years. That's the only thing we've seen.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, can I?
Hi, Trish Campbell, 154. Just on the comment of the triangle island, if we made it one way in, one way out, the same that we've done for Upland and Crescent, that's going to alleviate that yield. Yes, when you do come around that corner, you don't live here and you don't stop. You have to stop, you can't really yield. Then you're going to run into that person who's coming back down. I mean, that there is a relatively simple solution as well. I mean, you've got the triangle there, clean up the triangle, and make it one way in and one way out.
So that really wouldn't be a roundabout per se, just one way, like Upland? Okay, like Upland's been reconfigured?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, all right.
Yeah, Michael
Mike?
Deval, 158 Main Street. I'm right next to Trish with the similar idea. If we took both ideas that you mentioned, Christine, did a 3-way stop and made the path of travel similar to how it is in Upland, what you do naturally is you just change your sight line because you have to move slower into the apex of the turn, so that fixes your sight line going forward. And then that fixes the head-on collisions that almost happen on Ring Road without changing the intersection much at all. Very little work, and we've got readily available examples of how that works in the town already. Then if you can't reduce the speed limit, you can put up a stop sign and you kind of fix that problem. And then you also fix the flow of traffic, which is fixing the yield problem as well.
Caroline.
All right. Caroline?
Hi.
Carolyn, not Caroline.
There's some things I want you not to call me. I'm just wondering, and I'm sorry if I missed this at the beginning of your comments, but what is the core problem that you are trying to solve? And I heard some of the conversation about, is it the curve, is it the speed, is it the fact that there are accidents? What is the main thrust of the issue here?
Well, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we did a speed study on Main Street, and there were cars traveling at as fast as 72 miles an hour.
Wow.
So speed is excessive.
Since we increased the speed limit?
Yeah, that was out of Scott's hands, unfortunately. Yeah.
So I did some research today on traffic calming measures, and have you seen the Institute of Transportation Engineers website on that?
Yes, I've looked at traffic
Okay.
calming measures.
So, I mean, nowhere does it say straightening a road is a calming measure, for obvious reasons. In fact, many of the traffic calming approaches involve changing the road to make it more curvy, like you create a roundabout, or you create a mini roundabout, so that, or you create a choke. I'm not suggesting that all of those are good ideas for that spot, but I am saying that the trend is you make people turn a little or change their path rather than give them the straight driveway. So the idea of straightening that curve doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I'm also wondering whether the grant has locked us into any solutions and/or could cover more study of the data around accidents in that area, so that we can say for sure whether it's speeding into the curve or speeding once you get out of the curve. And another thought is, with those traffic calming measures, they have things like speed humps and other options where the intersection becomes a focal point and there's a slight raise in the pavement, not enough to kill anybody's transmission or anything, but to really sort of insist that the slowdown happen. And some of that comes with textured highways, so you put some textured asphalt or brick or something so that people are more aware of it, and those tend to not be right in the curve, but as you approach it. And some of the data suggests that if you put enough of these in a roadway, at enough distance, you're actually going to have slowing down over the entire course of both the straightaway and potentially the intersection. So I hope you'll look at those.
A lot of good information. Well, we've just applied for the grant, but I don't think it really locks us into anything because it has to be a plan that we all approve.
So it's a grant to plan and implement,
Correct.
not a grant to implement a plan.
Correct.
Okay, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's a key piece, and that goes back to what I said at the beginning, and I think there's a lot of concern was raised that maybe we had made a decision and we were just going to get the money and build it. Part of the grant is experts who, there's a lot of good ideas out here, and frequently the best ideas come from the people that live there, but the grant would also give us some money to hire experts to offer what are the options. And then I think we want to look at the whole list.
See what you're
George Cutler on Maple Street. Apologize for being late. My wife had just put a hot meal in front of me. So.
Understandable.
If you take a grant from the state, you may have already discussed this, but don't we as a town lose the ability to do what we want? They're basically going to come in and say, we did the study, this is what we found, we're providing the money to do it X, Y, Z way, versus you saying, okay, we got the grant, whatever you want to do. They may just say, this is not what we want from our studies, and we feel the money's not being spent, even as we as the town, feel we have a better solution.
I don't think that's the case with this.
No.
I'd be real concerned about
It would
that.
be us providing them with the study information. So part of the grant would afford us the opportunity to bring in experts, as Mr. Russo was saying, and they would do like a traffic study. We would probably have some public information sessions and workshops with people, and then move forward with the best option. And as long as it remained in line with the spirit and intent of the grant application, then I wouldn't imagine that they would have any issue funding the construction. Obviously, if they did, they just wouldn't fund the construction. But we're not locked into anything. It wasn't a state study that we used as part of the application. Part of the money that we're requesting is to do our own study and analysis via some professionals.
Okay. Yes.
Margaret Boyd from 163 Main Street. So can you just clarify the process here? Because I think there's some confusion, at least for me anyway, that if you invite the engineers in, why don't they attend a public meeting to hear some of our comments? Or are they going to get a summary of what's talked about here? What's the point of this?
This is so super preliminary. We haven't even, we just applied for the grant 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, August 9th.
So after, if we're awarded the grant, we'll absolutely do that along the way. But we just applied for the grant, and we may or may not get it. I'm hoping we do get it, because it sounds like it could be something that's really beneficial to the town. But in the event it weren't, we wouldn't take it. We're not going to lock ourselves into anything. We want to be able to come up with a plan that works for the town, not to have the state come in and say, this is what we think is best for you. So, sir?
I just have a question. It's definitely related, but I figure there must be some kind of schedule for paving Ring Road and paving the remainder of Main Street. Can you say what's on the books for that? I mean, it's obviously related to the intersection itself. It could be a solution to the problem, as I
I'll
said.
defer to Scott Ripley, our highway superintendent, who's here with us.
Yeah.
Hi. Ring Road is actually going to get an overlay, hopefully in the fall, up to the school, Crescent Street. That's where it's really bad. Just up.
Just from the intersection to the
Yep,
school.
to the school
zone.
Yep, because at that part it's horrible.
Yeah.
The amount of asphalt they're gonna, it's an overlay just to kind of a Band-Aid, just to get 10 years of repair out of it, so that it'll go down the line. The rest of Main Street has been held off because of the intersection issue, the discussion right now. And the straightaway, there's issues with that part of the road, because some of you might know it's called a corduroy road. It's actually held up by logs under there. And talking to Jim Mulcahy before I took this job, that was part of his goal, was to get that done, because that has to actually be raised up 14 inches. And in order to do it over wetlands like that, there's a lot of procedures. You have to put down special materials and to get it up to where it's actually something other than on old logs. So that's why the paving stopped up at the top of the hill and then started the corner, because of the discussion over there and that being done. I don't know when that's going to happen with Main Street, because that's another big amount of money. It's not a dangerous situation right now, but something that needs to be addressed in the near future. Because the road is low.
The turn itself
Yes,
is deteriorated severely.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well, Barry, you had your hand up. I thought you did. All right, sorry, sir. She may have.
Is that a moderator type thing to say? So if we don't get the grant, do we get the asphalt on Main Street?
Yeah, I don't suppose, if we have money, yeah, we'll see what we can do with it. As far as the stretch of Main Street, that's a whole different project.
That would be a
Will be a different
large chunk of money
Oh,
to
yeah,
raise the road. It would probably take all of the Chapter 90 money for several years
Yeah, so we'd have
to
that's something
to
that's
address
looked into
that.
to see what needs to be done with that.
What if we
Okay.
just close the road?
Yeah, there we go, close it. Vicki?
Accidents, Cindy Alberti, 162 Main Street. My concern is when you receive money from the state, you lose a lot of control on what you want to have happen with that money, as we saw with the previous highway money and the signage and the speed limits and all that. It kind of was taken, all control was taken from us. So I think a lot of us are concerned about that portion of it. And then the other thing is, if we do receive that money, is it only limited to that intersection? It would be nice to be able to use some of that to repair the corduroy road. Have it all as one package, if that's a possibility.
I think it's just the intersection.
Just for the
It's
intersection.
pretty well limited to the project site. If you had funds left over, and you could make a logical argument that it affected, say, the approach to the intersection from some direction, you could probably make a case for that and be able to get a little bit of that money to be used for that, but it is project specific.
Okay.
Going back to the comment of the road being resurfaced, is it coming all the way down to the triangle and on both sides of the triangle?
Yes, yep, it'll start right.
So could we, at that point, let's try out our own little theory here, and can we make the road already go that way?
No, you can't, no.
Turn.
You can't.
School bus can't turn into the right-hand lane coming down Main Street. It's, you know, it would need to be made like the end of Upland. Which I think is a great idea. And it's a very sharp turn there, so.
We could like,
Could we do that?
All right. All right, John?
It seems to me, I live on Crescent Street, just next to the school, about just shy of 50 years. One of the things that has really concerned me is that when cars come down Main Street from 106 in the morning, going to school, and they take that left, it's scary if you're around there. And conversely, in the afternoon, when cars are leaving the school, not quite as bad. It's the morning that... So when I've thought about this, it's to the extent that we can solve that we give something like Upland Road with a small island, that makes a lot of sense. The concerns I heard last time when we had quite a group meeting here was that if we softened the road by taking the curve and moving it a little bit towards the rock wall, that it would increase speeds too much. Now, I don't know if people still feel that way, but...
yes.
So people are saying, don't soften the curve, which means we will have to take some trees just so we have better sight lines, because the sight lines in the summer, up until recently, have been bad. When the leaves are on there, it's a little tricky, because you can't, if you want to go left, you can't see the cars coming the other way, and of course, the state came in and said we got to increase our speed limits. So I don't have a dog in the sense of wanting either a rotary or whatever. I just want to see that piece settled. One of the things that stopped us, at least in my mind, was that we got a figure that said the pole, moving the pole on the triangle, was close to $200,000.
Wow.
Now, that's what I thought. This is crazy. Now, we're using a firm for the Mass grant just for the submission, and they said that's nuts. So all of a sudden, that opens up a lot more opportunity, because if we can move the pole either across the street or whatever, then we have more opportunity to straighten that out, like Upland Road. I don't know how, we need the engineers, the experts to come in and say, okay, if you're coming down Main Street from 106 in your bus, how do you make that curve on a school bus so that it's safe? You know, if you solve that, everything else seems to just fall in place. So I think those are the things that we're kind of looking for. Elizabeth, you?
I'm sorry, but one of my pet peeves is the school buses go flying around the curve. I've been to Buckeye Police Department. I've spoken to the police on the street. Please come down at 2:30 or 3 o'clock. The buses fly. They really don't obey the speed limits. They go way too fast.
That's something we should look
I've been saying that for
into.
years, so I'll just repeat it.
Right. And for me personally, I don't really have a preference either. I just want to come up with the best plan that's traffic calming. And I like what you said, Carolyn, about doing things along the road. I mean, even, they can be optical. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything, different materials. There's optical illusions that will slow people down. So there's lots that we could do to, as approaches to this intersection to slow people down, and then just exploring what the best option is without negatively impacting the people that live on the corner, you know, taking your land or taking out your rock wall, so that we can make this work with still being, you know, respectful of property that you own in the area. Vicki, you got a question?
Vicki Alberti, 162 Main Street. So, say you get the grant and you can hire the engineer. Are you going to present the engineer with the ideas and possibilities that we've come up with, so that when they consider all these before they start making their plans, to see if they might be a possibility?
Sure, I've been writing things down. I think others have been writing things down too.
And I
We can
think we would call
certainly
you together like this and have an engineer here to
have a
hear.
forum with
Yeah.
him here, where he could say, this will work, this won't work, just so that we can kind of narrow the list and find out what will work for the intersection based on their experience. Bob?
You mentioned about moving the telephone pole on the island at Ring Road. Has cars hit that pole? Because they already seem to hit the one afterwards when they're coming out of that curve.
Not that I'm aware of, but whenever we've talked about how to change that intersection, the pole has been a sticking point. You know?
Well, if you build it up a little bit and did some landscaping there, so, you know, it's there, you know, a little raised terrace around the area and put a marker on that pole with a dangerous corner. And then the next pole, that's the one that Derek's hit. You know, I've lived in that house, my great-grandfather bought that property, and I don't know how many times we lost electricity for a period of time when the cars hit that pole, but I never remember hitting the one in the island.
Yeah.
So the island one, I think, is okay. It's the one that they hit. If it was moved up 10 feet or down 10 feet, I think that would be, you know, make a difference for safety if someone was speeding not to get injured. And, you know, as far as, you know, I know there's some rocks and stuff in that field right at that corner where trees are. I'd be happy to take the trees down and remove the rocks and have that nice.
Thank you.
If something did go off the road, it just then.
I had a son who ended up off the road one time, but I think that might have been beer.
Beer and speed.
When I was a teenager,
Mike?
on Pleasant Street, I was going around the corner on a motorcycle in front of Elmer's and Jackie Andrews' house, and I hit that telephone pole.
That's the pole that's the most dangerous. That's been hit more times than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah.
So,
Mike, you've got your hand up.
Mike, you 158, and just a couple of comments of clarification based on what people have said, and hopefully you guys know the answers. Other than I was going to see if Bob would make a big foam pit there that we could all just drive into. So, John, you brought up the pole was part of the thought of redoing anything around the intersection, like, say, making an island at Upland. Is it a necessity to move the pole?
I'm not sure. That's why we need expert help,
Right.
okay? But in the past, it has been, it has come up as an obstacle, and
Okay. So that was just one point of clarification. And then the other one, and I think Vicki spoke to this a little bit, and I don't know if everybody here knows or not, but when we think about I think it was DOT money that we received to do the guardrails and speed limits and such, the process in that seemed, and I could be wrong on this, as though we didn't have input, and when we got the money, they told us what would happen. So I think the concern here is with even getting the grant to be consultative around the intersection, that could happen again, but I don't know about how the two processes are different.
I don't know what type of grant that we applied for. Do you know, Scott?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was a grant per se, or it was something like that. They just offered money for this project.
my understanding is that was a multi-town. You either took it or you didn't take it. So it encompassed Middleborough, Carver, Plympton, Rochester. So, talking to Jim O'Kay at the time, he indicated it was around $250,000. And we said, okay. And I can remember, I wanted the rusted guardrails that we have around town, and they wouldn't let us do that.
No, they wouldn't let us do that. And it came with a higher speed. John, you got your hand up?
Yeah, so John Wilson, 255 Main. A couple things. One, thank you for doing this, and I can even see from the paper that the intersection was getting more in the way that it should go, because I think the original one had a double turn lane coming off the ring, which is a little extreme. So, but I think some of the ideas tonight are really good. I think moving the pole would be great, because you could even get away, I think, without even having an island there. And you could just have a small road coming into a slightly bigger road with a three-way stop, which I think would be the simplest and the least impact to that corner. In fact, it would probably even tighten the corner up. And it deals with the speed issue, because we can't control the speed on the road. We're going to control it with the stop sign. Will it be back up to 45 by the time we're going over the box? Probably. But we really can't, we can't stop that piece. And John, to your point, I spent many years driving to and from the den, particularly at that between 8 and 8:30, which I think is possibly, aside from Route 58, is the busiest part of Plympton. And I personally witnessed 5 to 7 almost accidents there, one including into a school bus. So I think it definitely needs to be dealt with, and the triangles clearly are not a good idea. So, I think that this is a great discussion, and I think we're coming up with a solution, or at least the thoughts for a solution that is simpler. And even though I love roundabouts, I would actually say that that's probably not needed there, from the standpoint that it is not the traffic level coming through that intersection is not like what we were talking about up here.
True.
On 58. And that, you know, you go through, up through Pembroke, and there's quite a few places there where they have 3 or 4-way stops. And it works very well and very efficient at moving the traffic through, given the type of flow.
It would be easy to enforce as well.
And if people don't like it, they can go back around the way they went before the speed.
True.
I think a 3-way stop would be the cheapest and solve all the problems.
Great. Carolyn?
With regard to the question of what comes attached to the grant, or, you know, what control the state has, I mean, that seems like it's something that somebody could look into and commit to look into before we accept the grant money.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, right, we all drive and see those,
Yeah, I mean,
the higher speeds, and right, free money is not necessarily free money, so
Right.
we just need to do our due diligence.
Yeah, and the other thought I had was in looking at the federal site on traffic calming, you know, there are communities that have guidelines, not just for this project, but for any local project. You know, a certain number of residents within a certain stretch of roadway can petition to have changes made based on the impact that that roadway has on them. And I would like to suggest we take a little bit of inspiration from that for this project, and at least have, you know, a commitment that the meeting where you're going to make any decisions would be posted more like a hearing than like a regular meeting, so that everybody's aware of it. And I don't know if there's appetite and time on behalf of the folks who are here tonight, but maybe we could be involved in some way a little more deeply, whether that's as a committee or just as people who are kept in the loop and are sort of advisory. I don't know what you would want to do, and I don't know what the appetite is, as I said, but it seems like getting more of us involved would be better in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of our goals is always to be very transparent. This board is, you know, we welcome your input and phone calls and emails and coming to the meetings, because usually we're here by ourselves. So, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if people want to get on a committee, because typically those are easy to get into and hard to get off of. And once you're on a committee, we don't let you go. We'll find another spot for you. So, but, you know, even just making you all aware, you know, we'll continue to let you know that we're going to be talking about this and put it on our Facebook page and post the meetings so that this is always front and center. All right. Elizabeth, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks. We just missed the drawing. I don't know where it was, and we'd love to see it.
It's still, everything was super tentative, but we can certainly get you those drawings.
No.
No, it was changed, Yes. Yeah, this one's different. Sir, yes.
So, the expense of the pole, has anybody considered the gas lines are gonna have to be moved if the street gets moved also? Because that's gonna be another huge expense. That feeds the Dennett School. If you take up the asphalt, you gotta move the gas lines. So you got utilities, both utilities that have to be considered. So before you go, you know, you might wanna look at how much the gas company's gonna charge you, and
Absolutely.
spend money to do that.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Okay. Good point. Mark?
So before we leave it, can I ask my fellow selectmen to authorize a brief period of time with town council to see if there are any other loopholes and speed limits?
Absolutely.
So I'll make a motion that we authorize Mike Russo to go to legal for an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
One more try.
Yeah, and, you know, maybe there's the scenic route might be something we can look at, and if it's not through Mass DOT, maybe they'll have the information on what we need to do with the Historical Commission to make something like that happen. And the school zone and everything else we've talked about tonight. Bob?
I have my business there, and I'm always backing my trucks up with trailers in there. Put a sign up, slow down, trucks backing up.
Yeah, maybe you could just leave your truck in the road. Vicki?
I believe I read recently that Duxbury was able to reduce speed limits in their town. You might find out how that was accomplished.
Yeah, I've been following that very closely. They're able to do it because it's densely settled, thickly settled, and less than 200 feet between houses. Were we in that situation, town meeting could lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. Fortunately or unfortunately, we're not thickly settled.
We have to find other ways to do it.
Oh, okay.
So you build more houses?
No, don't build more houses. Carolyn?
To follow up on that, the thickly settled aspect of it, I mean, you don't have to have the entire road thickly settled. So if we made each section of the road that has driveways, right, because we have retreat lots that are part of that stretch, could we find any spots?
Could do little spots?
I don't know if that's the definition Mark cited, but I know it used to be 10 residences in a quarter mile or something is what designated thickly settled.
We've looked at the way they defined it, and there's no way we would fit into it.
We weren't even close, yeah. But possibly, we could do some spot signage.
I think the stop signs, I know when we looked at down on Montello Street, Carver's putting in a big project there. We wanted stop signs. So what's the road that comes out from onto Montello? It begins with an H, that's all I know.
Heather's Path.
Heather's Path. So when Heather's Path came out, we wanted to put a stop sign there, a stop sign, and split Montello in two. And we were told that the state would not allow that. So I'm not sure how that corresponds to here, but I mean, if we could put in stop signs, that would really, yeah.
And I'm not questioning you, but like told by whom? Because a lot of times.
By the state.
Okay, because, I know a lot of times, once you look into an issue, you find out that the public wisdom isn't so accurate.
We've spent a fair amount of time on Montello because obviously Heather's Path people in Montello are very concerned about whether that's going to become a speedway for people, especially if you put in a whole bunch of warehouses and you have 3 o'clock, everybody bails out. So we're not entirely ignorant, but we're looking for a solution that everybody can feel comfortable with.
Okay. Sir, you had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Gloria?
Gloria Culver, 67 Main Street. I had a question because right near Churchill Park, where we are in Maple, and directly across from us is a house that takes care of people with special needs. And they have to come in and out a lot with their cars. And some of the people that live in those houses, they need special help. And it's very dangerous right there because there's a curve. So people coming from the town, coming around the curve can't see. And sometimes people are out in the street. And I just think it's so dangerous. And it's because these people have special needs. I wonder if there's a way to at least make the speed a little bit lower for that, because it's dangerous. I mean, yes, of course, it's near our house, so of course I'd like it slower as well, but it's really dangerous for them, coming in and out with the different cars and caretakers.
Maybe a question for council.
Their ambulances.
All night long, ambulances, vans.
We'll look for every loophole we can find.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if there is that, and then the school zone, how far can a school zone extend?
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Stretching it. That's stretching it quite a bit.
So it has to do with crosswalks too.
And the operation hours of the school.
And I think definitely look into it, but I looked it up today briefly, and it has to do with distance from crosswalks. So we'd have to put in crosswalks.
And then I think it's also limited by the hours.
Yeah, right, exactly. Temporary.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Great, well, thank you all so much for coming. We've got
Yeah,
lots
thank
of
you.
good information to share, and hopefully you'll be here if we get the grant, when the engineer's here to talk to us about it. So we'll definitely communicate it. So thank you for coming. Hi, Paul. Good to meet you.
I can get the rest of your work done.
Okay, good to see you.
Just remember we're,
Do you want me to send you guys the websites that I found, or it sounds like you're already...
Well, I've seen the traffic calming ones, but go ahead, yeah, send them to me, and then I can distribute them to those guys.
$100,000.
Right, some of them are not big money. Right, and pretty easy.
They're not relevant to 45 mile per hour necessarily.
Okay.
40.
All right. So, do you want to take a 5-minute recess?
should we just ask people to move it outside so...
All right, well, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, we're gonna continue our meeting. Can I ask you to take it outside?
Or you're welcome to stay, because the interesting stuff is coming now.
We never have anybody here, so...
Never, I know, so you're kicking them out. All right. Scott, do you need to see us?
Yeah, I'm on there about the update of the project.
All right, why don't we move to you? All right, the floor is yours, sir.
This is just an update on the Winnetoxet Wooden Bridge is going to get repaired. The original start date was the next Monday, which is the 26th, I think. But it looks like it's going to get pushed back at least a week, maybe more. I can't get a date out of them yet because they're ordering materials. The road is going to be closed for 4 weeks at the bridge. I've talked to both fire chief and police chiefs to discuss it with them in traffic control. I am renting a digital message board to put out probably at the end of Winnetoxet by the flashing yellow light, something that's saying bridge closed. It's Lawrence Lynch is doing the construction there.
Okay.
It's a big deal. They'll have barricades, they'll have everything else. We'll put out whatever needed, and we'll have the roads closed off. And then working on it. Again, I was hoping they'd get a date from them. They were supposed to give me one today. Tentative date said it was Monday, but they think it's going to be pushed back. I'll have a better firm answer for you when they get back.
So when do you think it'll be? I'm sorry.
Sure. Yep. When they're talking about, they're pushing it back at least a week, so into September, probably after whatever Labor Day.
We need to get something on the media side, the social media sites.
I've notified the schools, the bus company, all that, let them know that.
Is there, are we going to put a sign at Elm Street? At the end of Elm Street? Because a lot of people come down that way too.
We could, I think it's going to be closed off at Elm and West, and Winnetoxet come together at that intersection. It'll be closed off at that intersection. There's only 2 houses on that side. They'll be open to them, obviously. And then they'll have barricades further up at the bridge itself.
I'm just thinking that some people use that.
Well, we could, I mean, it's all
they come down Elm and go over to Prospect.
It's a matter of cost for signs and what I can afford to have.
I was just thinking a sign.
We can do a sign. No, absolutely. No, we can put something, we've got bridge closed signs. This just goes along with this last discussion about signage. People, what you put up for signs, people don't see them, so you want to have, that's why I wanted a digital message board that flash. And I think more people probably come in from the Winnetoxet Prospect Street side down in than they would from the other side. Yeah, that's all. Just to let you know that's proceeding. They're going to be redoing, repairing 2 of the posts underneath and putting new guardrails on. They're wooden guardrails.
Nice.
So, but they're something more up to date, metal back, expensive guardrails, but that'll be good. I was wanted to do the whole stretch of road, but cost prohibitive. There's not much there on the roadside, so it's a lot more work, but that'll be the next step. But, yeah, so that's happening in the hopefully next 2 weeks.
And the residents who will be affected, they know?
Yeah, they got letters already sent to them, and they're really not going to be, they shouldn't be affected other than there'll be a barricade they'll have to go around.
They'll just have to go the other way?
Yeah, exactly. They just can't go over the bridge. As far as foot traffic, I don't think even foot traffic will be allowed over.
Okay.
What they have to do is they have to support the bridge, dig down around the posts, basically loosening the posts in the ground and sleeve them, and then put everything back together, so they don't want anybody obviously driving over when that's done. And then when the guardrails get repaired, there'll be no guardrails, they'll just take them off. They'll put temporary up. I talked to them about that. I prefer them to put something temporary up when they leave at night, just in case you get foot traffic on it, which you will. So that's, yeah, I didn't expect it to be 4 weeks. That was a surprise to me when they said, oh, we're going to close it 4 weeks. I knew they'd close it during construction, obviously. During the day. I thought maybe it might be allowed to open or pilot lane, or they want to shut down completely.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Like I said, not really. You can turn around at Pope's Farm if they have to. As long as we get something on social media, the website, the Facebook page, when I get a firm date. I didn't do anything because I didn't have a firm date. The letters and notifications I did send out were very vague because I don't know, unfortunately. I've been emailing them every day. They keep saying, end of the day, I'll have a time frame, so. Because I guess they have to wait on the material. They have to have stuff specially made for the guardrails, specially cut for the guardrails. So they have to wait.
Great.
That's it.
Well, good. I'm glad you're repairing it. That's great.
Yeah, no, it needed to be done. It's, and in fact, I was there with Conservation the other day, and DOT showed up to inspect it for the year. They inspect it every year in August. And numbers are obviously the numbering system 1 through 10. And I've looked through the past reports, and every year the numbers keep going down on the underside. It needs to be done, so it was an opportunity to do it. We bid it out in the winter when people were looking for work, so we got it at a better price. So it got locked in, done within a few months, which I was shocked. It usually can take a lot longer to get these things together. So.
Great.
That's it, so excellent.
Well, thank you so much for the update.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
sir.
Have a good night. Thank you.
All right, so why don't we start at the beginning? So warrants paid. We've got a warrant for $566.07 for Crystal Rock, Comcast Business, and Verizon. And then $6,650.65 to Eversource, another Eversource bill, APP River, Senior Support, Wind River, US Bank, and another invoice for US Bank. So those are the warrants paid. All right, sign Plympton Historical Society license agreement. Do we have the license agreement?
We do have the license agreements, and we came to final agreement with PHS and among ourselves a couple weeks ago, and this was months in the making, and the beautiful thing is it pretty clearly delineates use or multi-use of the old townhouse and moves us to the place we want to be. That PHS has space there, and the town also has plenty of space there, and beautiful old building that we want to make more and more use of. So we agreed in executive session on certain final terms, and so just a function of signing tonight.
Excellent.
So 2 forms there, and
Right, that's right. Thinking, oh, I signed in the wrong spot. There you go, John. All right, various appointments for FY20. Do we have some appointments to make tonight, Liz?
Yes, there's a few here that read it up.
Okay. So it is, looks like it's police and then the town center campus committee. All right, so I'll make a motion that we appoint Christian Oberg as a full-time police officer indefinitely. All right, Art Moran, Townhouse Campus Committee, indefinite. Colleen Thompson, Townhouse Center Campus Committee, indefinite. John Williamson, Town Center Campus Committee, indefinite. Nancy Butler, Town Center Campus Committee, indefinite. And Ross McPherson, Town Center Campus Committee, indefinite.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right.
should we appoint John as well?
Oh, do you, yeah, because you wanted to be on that committee, right?
Yes.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we appoint John Trainer to the Selectmen's rep as the Town Center Campus Committee indefinitely.
Second.
Forever. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
And I've been sitting in on that committee, I think, for 8 years now, and will periodically continue to sit in.
All right, so, right of first refusal request, Haju Brothers.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch base on this. The Hartree Brothers have come forth with a couple proposals for solar on Lake Street, on, what's the other one?
Maine, I think?
So they must go before many boards and commissions and committees for permits. Our part in this is whether to exercise or not exercise our right of first refusal. So because this land is being proposed to be leased, the way we would be involved, or our right of first refusal, would be to buy the land. If we were interested in buying the land, the way we would have to do it is commission an appraisal to find market value. So I wanted to bring before the committee tonight the discussion of whether we had any interest whatsoever in hiring an appraiser. That's one piece, and just to lay out the rest, there have been some concerns raised about some of the paperwork and delineating exactly which lots they are. Liz has written back to the attorney and the people involved. We have 30 days from receiving their request to move forward with the right of first refusal. We have 30 days to let them know whether we have all the information or don't. That's important because once we have all the appropriate information, we have 120 days to exercise our right of first refusal. I feel like they don't have all the stuff before us, and therefore the clock hasn't been triggered yet. We would have to let them know. I think that might come before the next meeting, so what I really want to do is propose that if we don't get satisfactory answers on the questions in Liz's note, that we go to town council and get confirmation that the clock hasn't been triggered, and then we would have to go through the procedure of getting back to the parties and letting them know. It's a lot of rigmarole. I think ultimately that I suspect are not properties that we are going to be interested in, but I just want to lay it out there. So the two issues tonight, if there's any interest in purchasing, in exercising our right of first refusal, we'd have to hire an appraiser. And more importantly, I think before our next meeting, if we haven't heard back, I'd like permission for Liz or I to go to town council and just confirm that the clock hasn't started yet.
Okay, makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion that, well, who wants to do it? Who would it be easier to do?
If you'd like, I could send council their original package, and then what I sent to them.
I didn't know if we wanted to do that yet or wait and see how they respond and see if they're, because then we go to town council and say, we had concerns, here are this response, are these responses adequate to trigger the clock?
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, so, yeah, one of you will contact council as soon as we have their responses to make sure we have, okay, perfect. All right.
And one of the other things we'll have to do at some point, we will have to have a public hearing. We'd certainly want input from the public. We don't want input from boards, commissions, and committees. I feel like there is no need to hire an appraiser at this point.
I agree.
And just make sure you guys agree. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So, and I guess we should wait on scheduling the public hearing until we know the clock has started.
That makes sense.
That we have a full, okay.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. So, John, you had workshop planning discussion. When, where, and time?
So, I had sent out a sheet 2 sheets. Look like this. I don't know if you all got a chance to look at it.
I did not get a chance to look at it.
Basically, what I did was just take down the left-hand column the goals that we have. Okay, so grant acquisition, professionalism, volunteerism, affordable housing. And I started filling in some of the objectives and this strategy and tactics, more to give you a sense of, I'm not saying these are necessarily what we want to commit to, but...
To make things measurable.
Yes.
Okay.
And then ultimately we would put in there target dates, who's responsible, and if there was money that we expected to be spent, what a rough estimate would be. So I took this template off the internet, just one of many, and I said, okay, this seems to work. I'll start putting them in. So what I'd like to do is say, if you all agree, is that we schedule a workshop for us four to sit down and take our goals and start to put in how we want to get deliverables. I didn't do affordable housing. I figured,
Yeah, okay.
or I didn't do land resources, natural resources.
The natural resources, I have 4 things that I can put in there, or I can make a proposal to fill in the blanks on that.
Well, I was thinking, yeah, we could do it
No, we
ahead
could do
of
it as
time,
part of the
or
workshop.
part of the workshop. I thought
Like
we'd
on an
take-
off night?
Yeah, or whenever. Well, not in front of cable, because
Okay.
it's going to be
Yeah, we'd like that to be a working meeting.
a working meeting. We've done this in the past, and it seems to work out.
I mean, it is an open...
Public will be invited.
It is an open meeting, people can come, but it is one that we really want to just brainstorm, float ideas, and actually avoid the dynamic that we ran into earlier tonight, where we floated a bunch of ideas and people tended to get a little frightened, feeling that those were more than simply ideas.
From my side, there are things I would like to see accomplished. So one of my hot buttons is financial, where the Department of Revenue and other has made suggestions that we get it down in writing who's going to do it. And I think one of the things we have to be careful of is we don't fill Liz's bucket, so she's doing everything.
Right.
So we need to segregate it down into, town accountant, town treasurer, Board of Health, if that makes sense. At least, and if we come up with groups that don't report to us, then we know we have to go off and sell the idea and see if they'll be on board.
All right. So how about after Labor Day?
Okay.
Typically Tuesdays or Wednesdays are okay for me. I have, do you want to do it on a week that we don't meet? That'd probably be,
That'd be good.
make sense. So.
I'm easy, so you guys figure out when you'd want to meet.
Or if Mondays worked, we could just do like another Monday. And
Yeah.
then if people did want to show up, like even if you needed department heads for different things, there might be people in the building.
True, yeah.
On the Monday evening.
I'm flexible for Monday as well.
I would think first pass is just the 4 of us.
Okay. All right, so.
We don't meet on the 16th. If you wanted to do it then, that would be the first Monday right after our next meeting.
Okay, so on September 16th? Okay.
5:30?
Yeah, let's do
Wanna
5:30.
Do you feel comfortable with using this format? I'll get rid of the
Yeah,
bulletins.
yeah, and
Okay.
I'll do the affordable
Can we do
housing.
green instead of blue?
No,
Is that your favorite color?
I didn't know it was going to print out like this. You can't read it.
See, no, you have to, you need 11 by 14 printer, unfortunately. So yeah, I cut mine out and pasted it on the edge.
Oh, that's nice.
8.5 by 11.
That's really
I know,
nice.
but it doesn't all fit.
Yeah, it does. That fits.
You have to print to, shrink it to the screen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's beyond me.
That's high tech.
Look at that.
I'll print out yours.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll just
Green.
have to repost the meeting.
That's it.
Okay.
All right, so that's easy. And John, you don't have to be here for that, for the 16th.
Maybe
No
we should
need to
probably
record.
have Bree send
Yeah,
a
we'll
note.
take care of it.
Yep, okay. All right, so that one's done. All right, disposition of the old police station cell.
So,
This
We had to
looks
sell
like
it.
it's going to be a story.
we had to sell a jail up there. Ken came and kindly offered, he had a air gun, to take it apart. Each thing weighs how much, would you guess?
The sides weigh from 100 to 300 pounds each, and there's 3 of them. The door is 400 pounds. The bench is about 100 pounds. The roof is it's about over 1,000 pounds, 1,100 pounds.
So it's a pot, okay? We want to do that probably to get the space because we want to move conservation and plan. So the question is, Ken's offered to take it off our hands. It seems to me we ought to go to the Historical Commission and the Historical Society first, just to ask them whether there's any use they would have. I don't know why they want it.
I think maybe a shark diving.
It only has 3 sides.
Oh, that would be a problem then.
It was bolted against the wall.
That's right.
It only
That's
has
right.
2 sides and a front.
Well, with it being so heavy, that may be valuable as scrap metal.
I don't know, yeah.
And we might want to pursue that.
Yeah.
I mean, people pay a buck a...
About 200 a ton. This is about this is about half a ton. So that's about $100.
Really?
Yeah. If you call chuckers.
You know, weightlifters, it's a buck a pound.
Okay, so you want to check
Too
with
bad.
historical and,
Yeah, I can send out a note if you want.
okay.
Is there anybody else we should be?
And the Historical Society doesn't want it?
No, I'm saying we should notify them.
Okay.
And see if they do want it.
Okay.
Good.
All right, discussion of grant writer implementation.
So Liz was the official.
We're talking about the grant writer now.
Okay.
Liz drew up this draft agreement. I don't know if you've had a chance
Yeah,
to read it.
I looked at it.
So-
I didn't have a chance, but I
mean, the basic parameter is we're offering to pay her $25 an hour. We have $5,000 approved at town meeting. The question came up on, so if you want to, say, $1 million grant for the town, what kind of compensation would make sense? My headset was, you need to put a cap. And I thought 1%, 1% would be 10,000. So would you be willing to pay $10,000 to get $1 million grant? Seems to me, yes.
But where's the money going to come from?
Well, if we get the $1 million grant, we'll have to work with Finance Committee to see where the 10,000, but we'll have $1 million coming into the town.
Well, some grants you can include the cost of the grant writer in that,
Right.
but it also can be grounds for them to deny a grant as well, if you put money in there.
So my headset was, rather than, let's say there's a grant where all of a sudden, like the green communities, I think when Liz put it in, she got $7,000, something like that.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
OCPC and
Right.
In terms of the hours. There's no reason that we have to give it to the grant writer. I'm thinking, if you made it 1% of the total as like a commission, then it doesn't matter whether we get money like the green community or not, because you don't want her going after grants that only have money that comes in, for that
Right.
for that purpose. This way, the grants doesn't matter to her, what grant she goes after. Now, the thing we want to do is make sure that we basically through Liz set the direction of what grants we go after. She comes to us and says, these are the grants that I can see that are opportunities, these are the respective amounts, and then we sit down with her an hour or whatever and talk through what makes sense and what has the highest impact and also what's the one that's most likely we could win.
Mm-hmm. Does she want that in
We
there?
have not set this
We haven't gone through this with her yet, so it may make sense if we send this over to her, kind of in draft format, and then see if she has any feedback.
I'd like to send it to her without that.
Just the $25?
Without, just the $25 per hour.
And then see what she says?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'd like to go less than a percent if we have to do something like that.
So I'll remove that part for now.
Yeah, let's see what she comes back with.
Okay.
Thunder.
Yeah, the sky's like yellow.
Is it?
Everybody was
yeah, you
standing
can kind of
around
see it out
watching.
there.
I do know
But that's just me. I don't know if you want
The
to
reason I
keep
put
that
it
in
in
there.
there was, when I first talked to her, at the time I called her, just out of the blue, you guys had said call her.
Yep.
She had just come out of a meeting with the Selectmen out in Monterey. She's doing a grant there. And she said she asked for $2,000. She got $1 million grant. I think it was, or $500,000, but it was big. And they said no. And she was really ticked. She was like, and they asked her, one of the selectmen asked, what have you done for us lately?
Oh my gosh.
She had just got this grant. Now, she's also the town clerk in Monterey, but she does do grant writing for other towns.
So what is $2,000 off of $1 million? That's like
0.2%.
0.2%. So that's much less. So I think that she.
Let's take this part out and just send it with the 25 per hour. I should note in here somewhere too that we appropriated $5,000 through June 30th.
Yeah.
So that it's understood that it's not just $25 an hour for however many hours,
Right.
that there's a finite limit.
This is like a dry run. You know,
Okay.
This fiscal year to see
Right.
it doesn't
Right.
work.
How it works. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm good with that out. I would hope that we are hiring people whose sense of workmanship is such that they're motivated by that, and rather than additionally motivated by some
Okay.
percent.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. So per hour, period. Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. So you'll get that over to Terry?
Yes.
Great.
You want to
Thank
send
you.
these, Mark?
Yeah.
Sure, thank you.
And then I'll take them back because I don't have time.
Okay, so I think that we should move the agenda so that the town administrator's updates come before the board's goals for 2019, because quite often you touch on those.
Right.
So why don't you go, Liz, and then anything you didn't touch on, we can talk about. What's up, Ken?
Madam Chairman, may I back up to the previous item with some comments that I omitted to the...
Is it about the cell?
Yeah, I didn't want to give the impression, if I may, I have no intention of scrapping this. I'm not
Okay.
taking it to Jeffries. I intend to reassemble it in my new house, in the sports bar, for public consumption and signage and attribution to where it came from, and keep it for posterity in working condition, and sign a pledge that says I will not scrap it.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Since I live across the street.
Well, John, when I gave you a tour with Brenda, would you agree there's space for us?
Oh, yes. Can I have those appointment slips?
Yeah.
They're right there.
Okay. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, all right,
There are
Liz.
probably laws against unlawful imprisonment you're aware of.
Well, I don't have to put the key in it, but we could rent it out for functions, birthday parties.
There you go.
Yes, rent the sports bar. You all.
Thank you.
So we're waiting to hear back on MassWorks, Housing Choice, and still waiting to hear on Green Communities. I guess the state budget process was delayed somewhat. So normally they announce Green Communities mid-July.
Okay.
And that announcement has not come yet. But I've been told that they don't expect any major changes as far as availability of funding or anything like that. Been in preliminary discussions with my counterparts in Halifax and Carver about COA potential options. so there's more to come on that. Already kind of getting started on sort of looking ahead towards next year's budget process and what accounts we're paying different things out of. It was a goal of FinCom and myself to kind of have a better handle on what invoices are being paid from which accounts and trying to get a better sense of what it costs to operate certain town departments. So been working with the different department heads on that, kind of trying to iron that out. Also been doing a little bit of work somewhat in conjunction with the Wage and Personnel Board. We'll have to meet up at some point, but I've been collecting templates for the performance evaluations since we'll be implementing that process over the winter as part of the budget process. So I've been working on finding kind of a one-size-fits-all template for us, using a little bit from other places, kind of bits and pieces. So then I'll be meeting with them.
Can you circulate those to us so we...
Sure, there's a ton of them, and some of them are in hard copy.
No, I mean, as you get down to...
Yes, definitely. And then would be meeting with them in the fall to kind of iron out that process and how it might look. And that's really it. For correspondence, we had the Plympton Halifax Express. There was some information about the EEE, also about the Dennett School water situation, and then some Silver Lake athletes specific to track and field received some accolades. So, formative paper.
Great. Okay, so board's goals for 2019, long-range master plan for town campus. We just appointed a committee to help us with that. Liz talked about the senior citizens' needs with shared services. She's working on that. We talked about grant acquisition, and we are hoping to reach an agreement with Terry Walker. Continue professionalism of town general and financial operations. Liz touched on that with working, tightening up the budget process for next year and basic accounting, I think, with the department heads. Volunteer outreach, strengthen town committees, boards, and commissions. Anything to report on that?
No.
Minor thing, Justin Shepherd has agreed to join Community Preservation Committee. And
who has?
Justin Shepherd.
Oh, good.
That'll lower the average age by quite a bit, which is good.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah,
I think it's all right to say that.
All right, explore affordable housing opportunities. Liz talked about the grant. Yep. Support town administrators' goals. We look to do that all the time. Continue protecting town's natural resources and unique character, green communities, among other things. And then also you touched on the fiscally sound governance with tightening up the budget process.
Just one question. When are the bids due on the two lots?
I think it's September 5th.
September 3rd.
Or 3rd, yeah.
Great. All right, so...
I'll be there.
So we should have those before next meeting then, right? We'll know?
Yes.
Great.
We will know.
Great.
2 beautiful lots on Prospect Street.
Beautiful lots.
Let everyone know, please.
Conservation land in your backyard. All right.
You're good at this.
Marketing. All right. You already did the correspondence. Dates to remember. Our next meeting will be September 9th. And then we'll have a working meeting September 16th. And another regular meeting 9/23. So we do not have any regular session minutes, but we did have John's executive session minutes. Did you get a chance to read those, Mark?
Yes.
Okay.
Please remind.
Okay. I just had a small suggestion. It's meeting, voted to approve the signing of the granting of a license. How about just to approve the signing of the license?
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right. So,
we still have July 8th.
Oh, 7/8. What the heck? Oh, were those ones that you redid?
No, these are ones that we never got to.
Do I?
Oh, okay.
We've sort of been holding them in advance because we didn't
Yeah.
have an executive session. We're going to hold them till the next meeting if you want.
Yeah. Maybe we should hold them for the next executive
Okay,
session,
so
just to make
yes.
sure.
I'll resend.
I'm
Could you?
sorry.
Thank you very much. Okay, anything else to talk about tonight?
I got a couple of things.
Okay.
Well, maybe these are under rants and raves.
Okay, all right. So, do you want to go first with rants and raves?
So I have a little bit of a rant because over on Lake Street, I've had a couple of people talk to me about the wires are down.
Yeah,
Almost
long time.
hanging so that if you stand up, you can almost touch it.
Oh, that's not good.
And for some reason, so the fire chief's looking into it, but it seems to me Verizon ought to get on there and solve that one. For my raves, the hurdy-gurdy, I go by there in the morning early getting a coffee. There are cars all over the place. I mean, they're all the way down Main Street, around the intersection of Ring Road. Bob Andrews let them park out in the lot there.
Oh, nice.
It's an amazing thing. We are blessed to have this thing going on. The old police station space up here. Tom Milius, Steve Sarro, Scott Barrero, and Ken Thompson have all been working, but especially Tom and Steve. Scott ran wires that they wanted. I don't know if you've been up there recently.
Yeah, you and I were up there.
Go up and take another look.
Okay.
It's really coming along. And the last thing was the club puts on a senior barbecue every summer for the seniors. And this year, and I guess they've done this in a couple of years, they combine it with Triad for the Carver, Plympton, I'm not sure who the other town is.
Kingston.
Now Triad pays for their portion, but the club pays for this, everything for the Plympton people. So the Plympton people don't have to pony up any money. And I think we should give them a round of applause because I don't think they get recognition. I think people think, oh well, it's part of Triad, and it's not. And it was really fun.
The club does a lot for the community, especially the seniors.
Kathy Lenatra, our state rep, came, and Matt Clancy, our new chief, showed up, and they all circulated and spoke, and it was a nice time. It was really good. We were about 60, 80 people. It was a good turnout. So, that's mine.
Okay, do you have anything?
So my slight rant, I guess, is a bit of frustration that we'd like to lower speed limits in town in general and do something pretty unique and helpful, and we're kind of meeting a challenge at the state level. And I hate to leave it just as a rant. So my rave is that we can have freewheeling discussions about various topics, and that every once in a while our citizens join us, and not infrequently good ideas come out of that, not infrequently better understanding and therefore less misunderstanding, and I appreciate that when that happens.
Yeah.
This was very nice tonight.
It was very nice tonight, and that would be my rave too, is just the people that came out, the ideas that were shared, and I'm sure for some of these people, it's a very emotional issue because they live right there, and it just was nice to have the open exchange of ideas, and for them, I think, to get a better understanding of the process and where we are, and to understand that, we certainly want their input, and we want to do what's best for the town, and working together, I think we can probably come up with a really good solution.
Okay.
All right, so that's all I got. All right, so I'll make the motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.